It's the early 1960s, and Boston, a city known for its history and charm, is about to face a nightmare. A killer would soon strike, preying on the vulnerable and plunging the entire city into a state of terror. His name would go down in infamy: the Boston Strangler. The first whispers of terror began with the news of a brutal murder. A woman found strangled in her own home, her body left as a grisly message to the rest of the city. People were shaken, but they didn't yet realize this was only the beginning. His first victim, Mary Mullen, was found in her modest apartment, strangled with her own scarf. She was just the first of many to fall victim to a man whose cruelty knew no bounds. At first, it was easy to dismiss the murders as isolated incidents, but soon the killings escalated. The victims had something in common. They were all women, often alone and vulnerable. And the killer? He was always one step ahead. Albert DeSalvo, the man who would later confess to being the Boston Strangler, was no ordinary killer. He didn't break into homes. He didn't lurk in dark alleys. Instead, he charmed his way inside, pretending to be a salesman, a handyman, or sometimes even a friend. By day, DeSalvo was just another face in the crowd. He blended into the everyday life of Boston, walking the same streets as his victims. But by night, his true nature emerged, and he would strike with terrifying precision. His method was chillingly consistent. Once inside, DeSalvo would overpower his victims with shocking force, using their own belongings, scarves, stockings, or belts, to strangle them. The brutality of his attacks left the police scrambling for answers, but DeSalvo left no trace behind. As the body count rose, the Boston Police Department was under immense pressure. The public demanded answers, but the clues were few and far between. The city's women lived in fear, wondering if they might be next, while detectives worked tirelessly to catch the killer. Women in Boston began living in constant fear. They wouldn't answer the door to strangers. They avoided going out alone at night, and their homes became fortresses. Every knock at the door was met with suspicion, and trust was a luxury no one could afford. In 1967, Albert DeSalvo was finally arrested. Not for the murders, but for a series of sexual assaults. It was while in custody that DeSalvo confessed to being the Boston Strangler. His admission sent shockwaves through the city, but his confession wasn't enough to silence the doubts. Many believed DeSalvo's confession, but some questioned if he was truly the killer. Could one man really be responsible for all the murders? Or was there something deeper, something darker at play? To this day, these questions remain unanswered. Decades later, advances in DNA technology would confirm that DeSalvo was indeed responsible for the murder of Mary Sullivan, one of the Strangler's last known victims. But for the others, the truth remains murky. Was DeSalvo a lone wolf, or was there someone else? Even though the Boston Strangler's story is decades old, the fear he instilled in the city still lingers. His killings remain one of Boston's darkest chapters, a reminder of the evil that can hide in plain sight. The Boston Strangler may be gone, but the shadows of his crimes still haunt those who remember. His story is a chilling reminder of the darkness that can lurk behind the most familiar of faces. So, the next time you hear a knock on your door, ask yourself, who is really standing on the other side?